Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Catalina Gillies. It was the big crash seen around the city today as a giant smokestack at the former OPG station was demolished with the push of a detonator button. The 200-meter tower was built in 1978. It was the tallest structure in Thunder Bay until this morning. It's all part of a larger project by Budget Demolition to clear the site on Mission Island. Jonathan Wilson reports.
4, 3, 2, 1, fire.
Right on schedule at 9 a.m., the giant smokestack that helped supply coal-fired power to the city for more than 40 years came crashing down on Mission Island. It took about 15 seconds to be reduced to rubble and dust. Budget Demolition Site Manager Jeremy Later says they aimed for it to fall towards the sleeping giant.
Yeah, it went 100% as planned. All the modeling was exactly what we expected. So yeah, we can't be any happier than how it happened.
Budget Demolition hired a professional film crew to capture the spectacular event from 24 angles, which they're planning to post on social media. Later says they worked with 2 engineering firms and an explosives company to blast certain areas of the concrete base, along with the 3 flues inside.
Concrete shell of the stack on the outside that everyone's probably seen in their entire life around Thunder Bay, that got a design cut with explosives on the front. But inside the stack, there was also 3 flues for the 3 boilers at one time. That actually got cut the same way with other explosives, and they all go off within milliseconds of each other to let off, and then it falls a proper way.
Later says compared to some of their demolition projects, smokestacks are a bit trickier, but they're also easier to clean up. The steel in this pile of rubble will be recycled, while the concrete will be crushed and used for fill material. The former power plant building will be imploded in 2 sections in December and in the spring. Later says he expects those 2 events to draw a lot of spectators as well, and he's glad people heeded their call to watch from a distance.
Also with the public, all the safety factors with them, the OPP and the Thunder Bay Police helping us out, just keeping everyone back. We just always plan for the worst case scenario, but everything on this one went to 100% as planned.
Dozens of people gathered at places like Hillcrest Park to watch the big stack come down. And for some, it brought back memories of the Pool 6 elevator implosion in December 2000.
My dad wanted to go, so I figured I'd tail him along, take along with him.
Yeah, we had, like I said, this is our second one we've seen where they've knocked down towers here, and like today is a lot warmer than the last one was, so it's going to change the skyline somewhat. So yeah, it was a pretty good show.
Hopefully there'll be more to come in the future.
Another group of people gathered high up at the Mount McKay Lookout to see this piece of Thunder Bay history for the final time. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
Thunder Bay City Council will vote on Monday night on a proposed vaccination disclosure policy for city staff. City Manager Norm Gale says despite some legal opinions that medical information is a private matter, he believes the disclosure policy is the responsible route to take. He says the safety of their staff and the public they serve is the top priority. But the draft policy stops short of making vaccinations mandatory, as there are still other options for those employees who can't or won't get the shot.
We're bringing a policy to City Council this coming Monday that will require all employees, everybody who works in the corporation of the City of Thunder Bay, to disclose their vaccination status. Those who are not fully vaccinated will be required to take a course, and then they will be required to take regular antigen testing. And the amount of that testing will be determined by the nature of the workplace and front-facing customer service, for example, close contact with people, where they're working. There's numerous factors.
Gale adds the policy, if approved, could still change as the COVID pandemic continues to evolve. The Thunder Bay District Health Unit is reporting 3 new COVID-19 cases today. 2 are in the Thunder Bay area, and 1 case comes from a First Nation community. 2 of the infections are related to travel outside of northwestern Ontario. The remaining exposure source is still unknown. There's also now 1 person from the district in hospital with the virus. There are 13 active cases, 2 fewer than on Wednesday. 1 case has been removed from the Thunder Bay District Health Unit through a data quality check. Over in the Northwestern Health Unit, there's 1 new infection today in the Rainy River District. There are still 8 active cases across the NWHU. With schools reopening this week, the Thunder Bay District Health Unit has partnered with a number of area schools to offer a new option when it comes to getting the COVID-19 vaccine. With 14 schools set to host a pop-up clinic so far, the health unit hopes to get as many students and their families vaccinated as possible. Danielle Bain reports.
Sherbrooke Public School hosted the first of many pop-up vaccine clinics planned to take place at schools in the city and surrounding areas. Lakehead Public Schools Director of Education Ian McCrae says it was a wonderful idea to reach out into the community and provide these options for people who might not otherwise get the shot.
Well, it's absolutely crucial. We've always prided ourselves in offering what we call full-service schools, in that we do provide supports for students' mental health and well-being, and this is just another avenue that we're pleased to offer.
The school pop-up clinics are also being offered in rural schools like Kakabeka Falls, Valley Central, and Mackenzie, with plans to extend to more rural schools as well. Manager of the city's Vaccine Preventable Diseases program, Laura Dennis, says partnering with schools was crucial for increasing accessibility.
We timed the clinics so that they are during the span of the end of the school day, but also into the evening and after work hours, so that the times would make it really easy for accessibility-wise for school board staff, families who are picking up their students at their child after school, or families to access in the early evening hours.
Sherbrooke Public School Principal Leslie Hines isn't just happy about being able to offer a pop-up clinic to her students and their families. She's extremely excited to be back doing what she loves most.
Being with children and families is what drives us into this field. And so having those relationships with them and their families and the community, our community partners, just having everyone back in our building was extremely excited. I'm not going to lie, I had a little bit of a lump in my throat on the first day of school.
McCrae says beyond the staff and students, parents are feeling really good about the protocols and plans in place for in-person learning.
Well, I've talked to a number of parents, and I've not talked to a single parent who is not absolutely thrilled that we're going back to in-person learning.
Danielle Bain, TBT News.
Ontario is reporting 798 new cases. 620 are in people who are not fully vaccinated or have an unknown status. There are 365 people in hospital with COVID-19, with 331 of those patients not fully vaccinated. The province is about to digitize all driver's license and health cards in Ontario. Colin DeMello explains what that means.
Your government-issued ID is about to step into the 21st century. Later this year, the provincial government says your driver's license and your health card will be digitized, letting you carry it around on your phone.
You know, when you go to LCBO as an example or something, so you have this digital ID that you can present without giving a lot of information out there.
Here's how digital IDs will work. The government says you'll be able to download an e-version of your ID to the Wallet app on your phone or tablet, which you can then use for banking or to apply for a mortgage, to purchase real estate or even a vehicle, and even to attend a medical appointment. Businesses could use the digital ID to check proof of age, to file taxes, and to apply for a government grant. For those who never leave home without their phones, the move makes sense.
Like, it's easy to have it with you always, because your phone's usually with you, so it seems like a good idea.
People already have their credit cards and stuff on their phones, so it should be fine.
But digitization comes with its concerns, especially as Canadians worry about privacy breaches.
I think I'd probably want more information about things like privacy and security and digital, the boundaries that are in place to keep folks safe, but with the right information, I'd consider it.
The government says the digital ID will be optional, meaning you can still carry around your plastic card if you choose. The information, the government says, is only stored on your cell phone with no information backup in a central provincial database.
There will never be a compromise on the data security and privacy for individuals' data.
Ontario's former privacy commissioner says at first glance, the government is getting it right.
They said no one will gain access to it unless you authorize access. And it sounds surprisingly privacy protective and secure.
But she's also calling on Ontario's Information and Privacy Commissioner to verify the province's privacy claims.
It's very important that it's not a tracking device and that this information is truly under your personal control. These are key measures, and we have to have them verified.
The government says it is working with the privacy watchdog on the new system.
Ontario has confirmed it will not be observing the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation as a provincial statutory holiday. Indigenous Affairs Minister Greg Rickford released a statement on the decision Wednesday, saying Ontario is working in collaboration with Indigenous partners, survivors, and affected families to ensure the respectful commemoration of this day within the province, similar to Remembrance Day. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation was created to recognize a legacy of residential schools in this country. Switching now to our ongoing local coverage of the federal election campaign, we continue to profile the candidates vying for the Thunder Bay Rainy River seat. Liberal incumbent Marcus Pawlowski says he has more to do in the House of Commons and hopes to earn enough votes to continue that work. Ryan Benazzo has more.
It's a different type of campaign for Liberal Marcus Pawlowski the second time around, not just because of the global pandemic, but because he's now the incumbent in Thunder Bay Rainy River. The former ER doctor says he's thoroughly enjoyed his first 2 years in Parliament, and he has unfinished business to attend to within the riding and well beyond its borders.
Our efforts to help the Afghan interpreters and other Afghans who are trying to flee from the Taliban, which is something I started actually 2 years ago, and really the results of that work have only come to fruition recently with our government becoming a lot more involved in dealing with this process.
While navigating the pandemic is job number one at the moment, Pawlowski says addressing climate change tops his agenda moving forward, with job creation and economic development high on the list as well. Pawlowski took the riding in 2019 by more than 2,300 votes. He says the broad knowledge he's gained since then makes him the best choice to continue to represent the riding going forward.
Practically any topic under the sun may fall on your desk as being the Member of Parliament. So you got to be interested in a whole bunch of things. Two, you have to have a certain intellectual rigor to actually pursue those things and figure them out. For example, like what's the problem with Bombardier? Why can't we get the contract? So it takes a certain amount of studying an issue before you can understand it in order to actually propose some real possible solutions.
He says if elected, he'll continue to aggressively represent the riding in Ottawa, likening himself to a dog with a bone. Ryan Benazzo, TBT News.
Just over a week ahead of election night, some of the federal candidates in Thunder Bay Superior North gathered for a debate at Trinity Hall this week. The debate focused on business concerns from the Chamber of Commerce and the Anishinaabe Business Professional Association. The candidates' forum addressed issues such as Indigenous rights and Canada's mining and forestry potential. Here's what candidates had to say when the president of the ABPA asked what they would do to reduce the potential risks and effects of climate change for Indigenous peoples if they were elected.
Our panelists today. This development has begun, and of course Indigenous people will be at that table to make sure that the adaptation strategy includes the reality of remote communities, rural communities, communities that don't have access through roads or other forms of transportation.
The NDP will provide equity to First Nations to make sure their communities are safe. They will heavily invest in green infrastructure and green energy. They will not be buying any pipelines.
One of the first things that we're going to do is direct the Canada Infrastructure Bank to revamp to exclude private profit in infrastructure and to invest in climate-proofing essential infrastructure, prioritizing upgrades to drinking water and wastewater systems to protect against flooding, droughts, and contamination.
Globally, we need to have a global approach. I mean, Canada only roughly contributes about 2% of the greenhouse gases across the world, and we need to hold the big polluters accountable, like China, India, and the United States, to ensure that overall we can mitigate global greenhouse gas emissions and not just Canada's.
We'll have the chamber debate for the Thunder Bay Rainy River riding candidates on tomorrow's News Hour. And next week, TBT News will be presenting our own televised debates with the candidates in the 2 local ridings.
Well, Mitchell Ringos, it is great to see you back in studio. A ray of sunshine in here, might I say, but not so much rays of